There's a recording of him. It's from a live show in Vegas. The year is 1969. He's back. He's the king again, clad in a white jumpsuit, a god on a brightly lit stage. The song begins. It's a slow, sad ballad, a song about loneliness and regret. His voice is deep, rich, and full of pain. He sells every word. The audience is silent, hanging on his every breath. The music softens. It's time for the spoken word part. The part that feels like a confession. He speaks directly to a lost love, his voice barely a whisper. He paints a picture of an empty stage, of a life that feels like a play where he's forgotten his lines. It's intimate, it's heartbreaking, the performance is perfect, and then it happens. He gets to a line about seeing her, happy with someone else. He's supposed to sound broken. But a chuckle escapes his lips, just a small one at first. He tries to push through, to regain his composure. He can't. The chuckle turns into a full-blown laugh. He's trying to sing, but he's wheezing with laughter. The band keeps playing, vamping, trying to give him a moment to recover. The backup singers are holding their notes, but you can feel the tension and the confusion. The king is losing it, on stage. In the middle of his saddest song, he's laughing so hard he can barely stand. The audience is stunned. Then, they start to laugh with him. The moment is broken. The heartbreak is gone, replaced by this strange, infectious, unprofessional joy. He finally pulls himself together, sort of, and finishes the song, his voice still thick with laughter. For decades, people have asked the same question. Why? Why did he laugh? Why in that song at that moment? It's one of the most famous and beloved bootlegs in music history. It's a moment of pure, unscripted humanity from a man who had become a myth. To understand the laugh, you have to understand the man. And you have to understand the place. It was Las Vegas, the International Hotel, the biggest stage in the city. This wasn't the young, snarling rebel who changed the world in the 1950s. This was the comeback. After years of making bad movies and forgettable soundtracks, he had stormed back onto the scene with a legendary television special in 1968. He was raw, dangerous, and brilliant again. Vegas was the next logical step. It was his coronation, but Vegas is a strange town. It's a place of routine and repetition. He was doing 2 shows a night, 7 nights a week. The same songs, the same moves, the same jokes. For a man who thrived on spontaneity, it was a golden cage. The money was incredible. The adoration was deafening, but it was a machine. He was the main gear in that machine, and the gears had to turn every single night. The pressure was immense. He wasn't just a singer anymore. He was an icon, an industry. Every show had to be an event. Every note had to be perfect. He was surrounded by people, his entourage, his band, his fans. Yet many accounts from that time describe him as being profoundly lonely. He would finish a show, soaked in sweat and applause, and retreat to his penthouse suite, sealed off from the world. The adoration was for the image on the stage, the man in the jumpsuit. The real person, the man from Tupelo, who loved his mother and missed his home, was often left behind. Think about the song itself. It's pure melodrama. It's a man on the phone, or perhaps just talking to himself, pouring his heart out. He asks if his former lover is lonely. He talks about the world being a stage and each of us playing a part. It's a heavy, theatrical piece. To sell it, you have to go to a place of genuine sadness. You have to believe it. Now, imagine doing that twice a night, every night, in a city built on illusion and spectacle. After a while, does the emotion start to feel manufactured? Does the performance become just another part of the act? This brings us to the first and most common explanation for the laugh. It's the simple, funny one. It's the one that makes everyone smile. The story goes like this. As he's in the middle of this somber spoken monologue, he looks out at the audience. And right there, in the front row, he sees a man. The man is completely bald. Sitting next to him is a woman who is laughing and playfully rubbing the man's shiny head. It's a funny, sweet, human moment happening right in front of him. At the same time, one of his backup singers, a woman named Sissy Houston, who had a wonderfully deep and resonant voice, was standing behind him. As he delivered his lines, he got to a part where he changes a word. The original lyric is, "Do you gaze at your doorstep and picture me there?" But on this night, for whatever reason he's saying, "Do you gaze at your bald head and wish you had hair?" Okay, that's a joke. He didn't actually sing that, but that's the legend that grew around it. The real line he changed was much more subtle. The original line in the play the song is based on is, "I saw you last night in the arms of another man. You seemed so happy." Over the years, he'd sometimes ad-lib or change small things to keep it fresh. On this night, just as he was looking at the bald man, he delivered the line. Sissy Houston, seeing what he was seeing and sensing his impending break, decided to have a little fun. According to some band members, she discreetly held up her microphone as if it were a wig and plopped it on her head. Others say it was simpler than that. The line he actually flubbed was, "I saw you standing in the corner, and you were with a friend of mine, and I have never seen you look so good. You were laughing, the life of the party." He's supposed to be heartbroken, but the man in front of him is bald. The woman is rubbing his head, and one of the lines he's about to deliver involves the word bar. The original line is, "The stage is bare, and I'm standing there." The combination of the bald head, the word bar, and the sheer absurdity of the situation just hit him all at once. Another, more specific version of the story is that the man in the front row took off his toupee to wipe his brow right as he looked down. The sight of a man casually removing his hair in the middle of this tragic monologue was too much. The professional mask slipped, and the real person, the guy who loved a good prank, came roaring out. This is the most accepted reason. It makes sense. It's a story of a performer getting a case of the giggles. It happens to news anchors, actors, and musicians. It's a moment of spontaneous, uncontrollable laughter. It's human. It reminds us that behind the jewel-encrusted jumpsuit and the perfectly coiffed hair was a guy with a sense of humor. He loved to laugh. He loved to play jokes on his band. This moment seen through this lens isn't a breakdown. It's a breakthrough. It's a glimpse of the fun-loving person trapped inside the lonely king persona. But is that all it was? Like a bald man and a toupee? You know, some people think there's more to it. They believe the laugh came from a much deeper, darker, and more complicated place. Let's go back to the pressure, the repetition, the cage. He was performing a caricature of himself. The 1950s rebel was gone, replaced by this Vegas superhero. He was singing songs of heartbreak to rooms full of people gambling, drinking, and looking for a good time. There's a profound disconnect there. He's on stage bearing his soul, or at least pretending to, while the audience is there for the spectacle. Think about the absurdity of it. Here he is, one of the most famous men in the world, a man who could have anything he wanted, standing under a spotlight, pretending to be a lonely, forgotten lover. But in a very real way, he was lonely. The song in that context isn't just a song. It's a reflection of his own reality, twisted into entertainment. He was on a stage, playing a part. His life had become a performance. So, when he laughs, is he laughing at a bald man? Or is he laughing at the entire situation? Is he laughing at himself for being up there night after night going through these motions? Is it a moment of sudden, sharp self-awareness? A moment where the sheer ridiculousness of his own life becomes unbearable and the only possible response is to laugh? It's a hysterical laugh. It's not a gentle chuckle. It's the kind of laughter that borders on tears. It's a release of tension, the tension of being perfect, the tension of being the king. For a few moments, he wasn't the king anymore. He was just a guy who couldn't stop laughing at a joke, or maybe at the cosmic joke of his own existence. This interpretation paints the moment in a much more tragic light. The audience is laughing with him because they think it's a funny slip-up. But what if they were witnessing a crack in the carefully constructed facade? What if the man who was supposed to be in complete control was showing everyone for just a minute that he was losing it? There is another layer to consider, and it's one that is often part of his later story. It's the issue of his health and his reliance on prescription medication. By 1969, he was already on a regimen of pills to help him sleep, to wake him up, to manage his energy for the grueling Vegas schedule. These weren't illegal street drugs, they were prescribed by doctors, but they took their toll. Could the laugh have been amplified by his state at the time? Prescription drugs can lower inhibitions. They can make you more susceptible to emotional swings. A small, funny thing that he might normally have chuckled at and moved on from could have become an unstoppable tidal wave of laughter because his emotional controls were not fully engaged. This doesn't take away from the humor of the moment, but it adds a layer of sadness. It suggests that the man on stage was not entirely in command of his own reactions. His body and mind were being pushed to their limits, fueled by a cocktail of chemicals designed to keep the show on the road. The laugh, in this context, is a symptom. It's a sign that the machine was starting to show signs of wear. The gears were beginning to grind. So we have three potential reasons. The first is simple and sweet. He saw something funny and lost his composure. A human moment. The second is complex and psychological. He was laughing at the absurdity of his own life. A hysterical release of pressure and loneliness. A tragic moment. The third is clinical and sad. His reaction was amplified by prescription drugs, a sign of the health problems that would plague his later years. A medical moment. What is the real reason? The truth is, it was probably all three. Human beings are not simple. A single action can have multiple causes, all happening at once. It's very likely that he did see something funny in the audience. That was the trigger. That was the spark. But the size of the explosion, the sheer uncontrollability of the laughter, was likely fueled by the other factors. The exhaustion, the pressure of the Vegas run, The emotional dissonance of singing a sad song in a happy place. The feeling of being an isolated icon. And yes, perhaps the chemical state he was in. These things didn't cause the laugh, but they created the conditions for it to become what it became, a complete and total breakdown of the performance. It was a perfect storm happening inside one man, in front of a live audience. What's most fascinating is not just why he laughed, but why we still listen to it. Why do people seek out this flawed, broken performance? In an era of auto-tune and digital perfection, a mistake is usually erased. An artist losing it on stage is often seen as a sign of weakness or unprofessionalism. But this recording is treasured. It's treasured because it's real. In that moment of laughter, the myth disappeared. The jumpsuit, the legend, the king, it all melted away. And what was left was a person. A man laughing. A man who couldn't help himself. It is perhaps the most honest moment of his entire Vegas career. For those few minutes, he wasn't selling a song, he wasn't playing a part. He was just a human being, overwhelmed by an emotion he couldn't contain. The other performers on stage felt it too. You can hear the backup singers trying to hold it together, but their voices are trembling on the verge of laughter themselves. The band keeps the music going, a steady, professional foundation under the chaos. It's a beautiful little picture of a group of people trying to navigate a moment of pure, unexpected reality. His attempts to get back into the song is almost as famous as the laugh itself. He tries to deliver the next line, but his voice cracks with another wave of giggles. He says, "Oh boy," to himself, as if acknowledging the absurdity. He finally manages to sing the final lines, but the sadness is gone. The tone is completely different. It's no longer a song of heartbreak. It's a song of shared joy, a memory of a moment when everything went wrong and it was wonderful. That's why the recording endures. It's the flaw that makes the art more beautiful. It's the crack that lets the light in. It reminds us that our heroes are human. They make mistakes. They get the giggles at inappropriate times. They are just like us. In a career built on being larger than life, this was a moment where he was exactly life-sized. And it's a beautiful thing to witness. It strips away the tragedy of his later years, the isolation, the health problems. It reminds us of his humor, his charm, and his infectious spirit. He wasn't just a sad, lonely king in a gilded cage. He was a man who could laugh at a bald head, or a toupee, or the beautiful, ridiculous mess of his own life. The laugh is a puzzle with no single, definitive answer. It's a mix of comedy, tragedy, psychology, and physiology. It was a random, silly moment that became profound. It was a mistake that became a masterpiece. It was the sound of a man who, for one night in Vegas, in the middle of a heartbreaking song, couldn't do anything but laugh. And we are still listening and smiling all these years later. The song was "Are You Lonesome Tonight?"